Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
He was the biggest star in the WWF and helped them win the Monday Night War against WCW. But it was stars from that rival company coming in that helped push him out the door. It led to a match he didn't want at WrestleMania and a follow-up he liked even less. I am Luke Owen, and this is the real reason Stone Cold Steve Austin walked out of the WWF in 2002. Let me take you back to 2002. WCW was dead, ECW was dead, the invasion was over, and Chris Jericho was the undisputed champion getting ready to face off against a returning Triple H. Austin had once been the focal point of the company, feuding with The Undertaker, Kurt Angle, The Rock, and Vince McMahon, but the landscape was changing. New stars like Brock Lesnar were coming in, Jericho was getting a big push, Hunter was positioned as the #1 babyface, and positions on the card were being shaken up. Steve felt he wasn't the most important thing in the company back then, but you also had a shitload of talent that you're trying to get over, and guys you're trying to bring up, so you have to shuffle a little bit. In February of that year, WWF finally came to terms to bring in Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall as the New World Order for that year's WrestleMania, which would include the Icon vs. Icon match between Rock and Hogan, which left Austin to face off against Scott Hall. Now, Hall was battling a lot of demons at the time. He had drink and substance abuse issues that often got him in trouble while he was in WCW, and there were those in WWF who were warning Vince at the time that bringing Hall and Nash into the company could cause issues backstage. They would just be a cancer in the locker room, and do we need that right now with the locker room that we have? That was unanimous for the most part. The agents, the writers, everybody. Triple H was an advocate for them to come back. Austin actually had no issues with facing Hall on a personal level, but felt that it didn't work creatively as he'd only been with the company a month, which wasn't long enough to get him on Austin's level. He has said over the years he just wanted to face someone else at WrestleMania, probably someone who didn't sell the stunner in the most comically goofy manner possible. Worse yet, the original plan was actually for Hall to win due to interference from the newest member of the group, X-Pac. The week before WrestleMania X8, WWF Creative begged Vince McMahon to change the finish after watching Hall's less than stellar performance on the March 11th edition of Monday Night Raw. McMahon agreed, but oddly didn't tell Austin, Hall, Nash, or X-Pac. So here you have Steve Austin, the man who has been your biggest draw for years and your #1 merchandise seller, who at this point thinks he's jobbing to Scott Hall at the biggest show of the year, even though many in the company felt that with his behavior, he wouldn't be around much longer after Mania. And then Hall gets drunk with fans the night before the show and turns up to WrestleMania X8 with a hangover. According to Brian Alvarez, Austin blew his stack. Austin demanded the finish be changed, which it already had, and Vince, being the genius that he is, acquiesced and pretended like it was Austin's idea. Of course, Hall and Nash weren't keen on the finish, as the NWO would lose both of their matches in their first pay-per-view, effectively killing the group, which, by the way, it did. On the Monday Night Raw after Mania, the main event was Hall and Nash versus Rock and Hogan. Austin was just scheduled to cut a promo. He decided a better use of his time was to go home. He wasn't on the following show either, which angered fans who had bought tickets just to see him. On a May 31st episode of WWE's Bite This, Austin aired his grievances with the company. Hilariously, host Kevin Kelly tried to play down Austin's disgruntlement as mere internet rumors, but then Austin replied, "The bottom line is that everything sucks. I'm not happy with the way Stone Cold Steve Austin is going. The writing has been pretty substandard. I'll go one better than that. It's been piss poor. I guess it could have been a whole hell of a lot better creatively than what it's been. It's been pretty shitty. I wasn't happy before WrestleMania X8, and I wasn't happy after WrestleMania X8. Austin was looking at a WWF that was different to 1998 and 1999. He was still the company's biggest draw, but he was no longer their biggest star. He wasn't in the hunt for the title, because that was being held by young, plucky upstarts The Undertaker and Hulk Hogan, who had an on-the-fly babyface turn due to the thunderous reaction he got from Toronto at WrestleMania. He had been asked to do a job for the Big Show in an unadvertised match in England, and then, the straw that broke the camel's back, he was asked to lose to newcomer Brock Lesnar in an unadvertised King of the Ring qualifier on a June 2002 episode of Raw. Austin felt like this was something that should have been built up to, not given away for free. Upset, he stormed out of the building and went to the airport to fly home. Here's the bottom line. I'm Stone Cold Steve Austin. I've drawn more money than anybody in this business. I've reportedly sold more merchandise than anyone in this business. I've sold more pay-per-views than anybody in this business. So Stone Cold is not the first in line to do a job to Brock Lesnar. I had no problem with putting him over, but I should have been the last in line, not the first. It made no sense to me. I thought it was poor planning. Vince McMahon and Jim Ross weren't in the building when he walked out. And when they found out, JR frantically tried to call him to get him to return, but Austin was already boarding the airplane. Raw had to be rewritten on the fly. So Austin walked out again. No big deal, right? He walked out the night after WrestleMania and he was back in a couple of weeks. But then on June 13th, 2002, WWE.com reported, on Monday, June 10th, 2002, Stone Cold Steve Austin again failed to appear for the scheduled Raw event in Atlanta, instead choosing to return home to San Antonio without notice and without company approval. Although Steve was unhappy with his character's creative direction, Steve made the personal and unprofessional decision not to report to work to address his concerns. Therefore, Stone Cold Steve Austin is no longer an active member of WWE's talent roster. That same afternoon, Vince McMahon and Jim Ross taped a segment for that coming Saturday's WWE Confidential, saying Austin was not welcome back and that it was impossible to build storylines around a character that never shows up. As they put it, Steve Austin took his ball and went home. In the Stone Cold Truth, Austin notes that creative issues were a part of the problem, but he was also suffering mentally and physically. The stuff that was going on at WWE was only part of the picture. It was a tough time in my life because I was standing on the sidelines. People were throwing rocks at me. My body was quitting on me, and I didn't have any recourse but to try and get out of it. But do you remember when Vince made Trish Stratus strip and bark like a dog? And what are some of the matches at WrestleMania you'll never see again? Find out more by clicking the videos to the left. Press subscribe and support WrestleTalk on Patreon. I have been Luke Owen, and that was Reasons.